Hello and welcome to Doctor's Orders here at the Chrissy B Show. I'm Dr Rob Hicks. Today we're going to be talking about a long-term digestive system problem called Irritable Bowel Syndrome, or IBS. This is a condition where people with IBS suffer intermittent bloating, abdominal cramps, constipation and diarrhea, or alternating constipation and diarrhea sometimes. IBS is actually a very common condition. Around 1 in 5 of us will suffer with the condition at some point in our lives. It's more common in women than it is in men, and it's most common for people in their 20s and 30s, although saying that, it can affect people at any age. Nobody really knows precisely what causes IBS. Some theories are that it's because the gut is oversensitive, or that the gut has a problem digesting certain foods. Infection may be involved, inflammation may be involved, certain diets may be involved, but precisely why it happens, we still don't know. But what we do know are the symptoms it causes and actually what we can do to treat those symptoms. Abdominal bloating, abdominal cramping pains, constipation, diarrhea, excess wind, passing mucus when you go to the toilet are common symptoms of IBS, as is a feeling of, when you've been to the toilet to do a poo, feeling that you haven't quite emptied your bowel, that there's still some more to come. And from an emotional point of view, irritable bowel syndrome can cause stress, anxiety, and sometimes depression. And because it's a bowel condition, where some people sometimes have to go to the toilet really quickly, it can also lead to isolation because people are embarrassed about their symptoms and so they stay at home, they don't want to socialise. Thankfully, there are lots of things that we can do to help people with IBS. So one thing is to try and identify your personal triggers for flare-ups, for attacks of your IBS symptoms. Best way of doing this is actually to keep a symptom diary. So you can try and identify what those triggers are, whether there's a pattern. Is it related to activities? Is it related to certain foods? Is it related to periods of stress? Once you've identified those triggers, then of course you can try and avoid them as best you can. Adapting your diet is very important when you manage an IBS, and we often talk about increasing the amount of fibre that you have in your diet. But just a word of caution, for some people with IBS, when they do have more fibre, it actually makes their symptoms worse, not better. So with fibre and indeed dietary changes, it's often a case of trial and error to see if it works for you, and if it does, how well it works for you. We know that exercise is good for all of our body in general. It's very, very good for helping the gut to function properly. It's also very good for helping to keep IBS symptoms under control. So keep as active as you can. And since stress is a major trigger for IBS symptoms, goes without saying, try and keep stress under control in whatever way works for you. So it might be jogging on the spot, it might be meditation, it might be deep breathing exercises, listening to music or reading your favourite book or magazine, whatever works for you as an individual. And of course there is medication available too to manage the symptoms. There are drugs called antispasmodics to deal with the cramping abdominal pain, there are laxatives to deal with the constipation, there are anti-diarrhea medicines to deal with the diarrhea, and sometimes people are recommended to have a low dose of an antidepressant. Not necessarily because they're depressed, but because the receptors involved with IBS are similar to those involved with depression, and that's how those drugs work. Now sometimes, for people who have an urgent need to go to the toilet, they can find themselves becoming isolated because they'd rather stay at home where they feel safe. Now, to avoid having to be fixed to one bathroom, there are schemes available around the UK that can actually help people find a toilet when they need to. So there's the National Key Scheme, which is run by Disability Rights UK, where for a small charge you can get a key that gives you access to locked public toilets around the UK. The Irritable Bowel Network provides, again for a small fee, a Can't Wait card. This is a card that you can show people in a business or a shop that says basically, I've got a bowel condition, I need to use the toilet urgently, it would be good if you could help me. It helps overcome some of the awkwardness and embarrassment about asking to use somebody else's toilet. So if you'd like to learn more about IBS, or you've got IBS already and you really would like more information, or you'd like it better controlled than it is at the moment, then do have a chat with your own GP and seek their advice. And that's Doctor's Orders.